Ladies and gentlemen, kindly take your seats as we'll begin the next session shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of our guest of honor, representing the Minister of Higher Education Malaysia, the Director General of Higher Education, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Profesor Dr. Azlinda Azman.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Yang Berbahagia Datuk Profesor Dr. Azlinda Azman, Director General of Higher Education and our guest of honor, Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Ahmad Izani Awang, President and Vice Chancellor of Open University Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia Emeritus Profesor Datuk Dr. Muhammad bin Awang, Chairman of the OUM Board of Governors, Yang Berusaha Encik Farid Wajidi Mat Yusof, Group Chief Executive Officer of Meteor,
Members of the board, OUM Executive Management Committee, Meteor Group Leadership Team, our distinguished speakers, honored guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen in this hall, and everyone joining us on our live stream, a very good morning to all.
Our ceremony continues with the recitation of the Doa. Allow me to invite Ustaz Nur Bakri Abdul Hamid to lead us in the recitation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, Ya Mannan, Ya Hannan, on this blessed morning, in conjunction with the OUM Second Annual Public Lecture Series, we beseech thee and grateful towards you in favor of all infinite blessings towards us, your humble servant, to live, work, and study in a safe, prosperous life. We seek your blessings for a flawless progress of this event. Ya Allah, Ya Wadud, beautify us, our hearts, goods with characters. Fill us with kindness, honesty, patience, and humility. Keep us away from bad habits, pride, and harshness. Protect us from neglect and guide us gently to the path of rightness. Ya Allah, Ya Mukallib al-Qulub, tighten our bonding, tolerance, and integrity. Unite us with love and kindness. Strengthen us with full determination to overcome obstacles and challenges with open hearts and appreciations for one another. We seek your guidance to steer clear from any events that would be detrimental to the progress of our years and hard work and success. O Allah, bless our honorable guests, speakers, attendees, and community leaders. Grant them wisdom, strength, and barakah in all efforts, and reward them abundantly for their contributions to our gathering and our shared purposes. ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير. الله طول أعمارنا وصحي أجسادنا وثبت إيماننا ووسع أرزاقنا وحسن أخلاقنا ونور قلوبنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you.
Amin ya Rabbal Alamin.
It is now our honor to invite the President and Vice Chancellor of Open University Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia Professor Dato' Dr. Ahmad Izani Awang, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Please welcome him warmly.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang Bahagia Datuk Profesor Dr. Azlinda Azman, Director General of Higher Education, distinguished guests, our OUM Global Fellows, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Terlebih dahulu saya bagi pihak OUM mengucapkan setinggi-tinggi penghargaan dan terima kasih kepada Yang Bahagia Datuk Prof. Azlinda di atas kesudian beliau untuk bersama-sama kita pada pagi yang bersejarah ini. We are truly honoured that you are able to join us on this special occasion. And to our guests, partners and friends, welcome and thank you for being part of this important milestone in OUM's journey. Ladies and gentlemen, higher education has gone remarkable changes over the past few decades. We progressed from traditional classrooms to blended and self-managed learning, online education, smart campuses, and today we are entering the era of intelligent learning ecosystems. This is more than a technological upgrade. It represents a fundamental shift in how learning is designed and experienced. Future learning centers will no longer be defined by lecture halls or physical libraries. They will become interconnected ecosystem where AI, learning analytics, cloud computing, immersive technologies, and human expertise converge to provide personalized lifelong learning. Imagine every learner having access to an intelligent learning companion available 24 hours a day. AI can recommend resources, identify learning gaps, provide immediate feedback, and personalize learning pathways. Yet, the educator remains indispensable, not as a transmitter of knowledge, but as a mentor, coach, and ethical guide. Today, technology changes the tools of education, but humanity remains its purpose. And today, we gather for the second annual public lecture series organized by our Center for Digital Education Futures, or CENDEF. And this year's theme, Beyond Standard Scripts, Imagining New Futures in Digital Education, challenges us to look beyond the familiar and ask a harder question: what should learning become? And not just how can it be delivered differently. Technology has transformed how people learn, but a tool is only as good as the hands that wield it. What matters most is not the technology itself, but how we use it. But how we use it to create richer learning experiences and stronger support for every learner wherever they are. Today's lecture will be led by 5 distinguished scholars who have been appointed as OUM Global Fellows for 2026-2027. We hope their expertise and experience will help to strengthen our collective thinking about the future of higher education. For your information, Dato', our Global Fellows for this year come from various parts of the globe. First, Professor Emeritus Shinobu Yume Yamaguchi from Japan. Second, Professor Lim Cherping from Hong Kong. Both of them have already delivered their lectures earlier this morning. The third one is Professor Bud Rintis from United Kingdom. The fourth one is Professor Josh Valencianos from United States. And the fifth one is Professor Felicitas McGilchrist from Germany. And to our global fellows, thank you for making the journey to be with us. We look forward to learning from your insights and perspectives. Ladies and gentlemen, as we look ahead to the future of digital education, today also marks another significant milestone for OUM, the unveiling of our new corporate logo. Our logo represents OUM's mission to widen access to quality higher education through flexible learning. It is a symbol recognized by generations of learners, alumni, staff, and partners. But institutions, like the learners they serve, cannot remain static. Digital technologies and AI are reshaping teaching and learning. Learners today expect education that is more flexible, more personalized, and more connected. OUM has changed too. Starting as an idea to make higher education more accessible, OUM has grown into one of Malaysia's leading providers of open, distance, and digital education. Today, we are very proud to have more than 140,000 graduates and close to 40,000 active learners. As OUM has grown, our identity needs to grow with it. So we feel it is time for our visual identity to reflect the university OUM has become and the future we are building together. Our new logo is therefore much more than just a new design. It represents our confidence in the future of education and our commitment to remain at the forefront of digital learning. In many ways, today's public lecture series and our new identity carry the same message. Both invite us to look beyond familiar ways of thinking. One challenges us to rethink the future of learning, while the other reflects our commitment to shape that future. Looking towards that future, we will continue to embrace new technologies, strengthen our digital capabilities, and improve the learning experience for every learner, while never losing sight of why we exist, to make quality higher education more accessible and to create opportunities that transform lives. Before I conclude, I would once again like to thank Yang Bahagia Datuk Prof. Dr. Azlinda, Yang Bahagia Encik Farid Wajidi, our OUM Global Fellows, our partners, our guests, and everyone who has contributed to making today's event possible. Together, let us continue opening doors to learning, opportunities, and possibilities, because every door we open is someone's future waiting to begin. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Yamaguchi Dato. Ladies and gentlemen, to set the tone for today, we invite you to watch a short video on the annual public lecture series, what it stands for, and the conversations it seeks to spark. Please turn your attention to the screen.
For more than 25 years, Open University Malaysia has expanded access to learning by redefining who can learn, where they learn, and how they learn. Today, education stands at another turning point. A familiar story is taking hold that every problem in education has a technological answer. But education has never been that simple. Technology has never been our starting point. Neither have markets, metrics, and machines. People, learning, and communities have. That is where we begin. Our global fellows are here to build on that way of thinking. 5 scholars, 5 perspectives, 1 shared act of imagining. Joining us are Professor George Veletsianos, Professor Lim Cherping, Professor Bart Rinties, Professor Emeritus Shinobu Yume Yamaguchi, and Professor Felicitas McGilchrist. Scholars opening up new possibilities for digital education. Welcome to OUM's 2nd annual public lecture series, Beyond Standard Scripts, Imagining New Futures in Digital Education. Let us begin.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now honored to receive the address by our guest of honor, the Director General of Higher Education. Please welcome Yang Berbahagia Datuk Profesor Dr. Azlinda Azman.
Terima kasih kepada Tuan dan Puan Pengacara Majlis. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Ahmad Izani Awang, President and Vice Chancellor Open University Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Emeritus Profesor Datuk Dr. Muhammad bin Awang, Chairman OUM Board of Governors. Yang berusaha Encik Farid Wajidi Mat Yusof, Group Chief Executive Officer of Meteor. Yang berbahagia Naib Chancellor UiTM, Profesor Datuk Sharin, dan semua Vice Chancellor yang ada, timbalan-timbalan Naib Chancellor, members of the board, distinguished speakers, honoured guests, distinguished speakers as well as participants, university management and staff, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan selamat pagi kepada semua yang hadir. Pertama sekali saya ingin menyampaikan salam daripada Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Diraja Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir, Minister of Higher Education, kerana tidak dapat bersama-sama pada pagi ini kerana beliau perlu menghadiri mesyuarat kabinet. Ya, ketika ini mesyuarat kabinet sedang berjalan. Tapi beliau telah menyampaikan salam dan mengucapkan selamat berseminar dan semoga semuanya berjalan lancar. First of all, I would like to thank OUM for inviting us on behalf of the Ministry of Higher Education. So I will be speaking on behalf of the Minister, and I know the text is already being prepared, but I will try my very best to convey based on my ways of delivering speeches. Yeah, it's very difficult to read on behalf of the minister because minister also have his own style of giving the messages. But I'll try my very best to share what would be the gist that he wanted me to highlight. Yeah, so I'm representing the Minister of Higher Education. And I would like to thank to OUM for inviting us, representing Ministry of Higher Education, to be part of this important occasion. It is a pleasure for me to be here today for the second annual public lecture series and the launch of OUM's new logo. So I can't wait to see the new logo, inshallah. Now, today's event brings together two important elements: the sharing of knowledge and ideas through the public lecture series, which is very important, and the introduction of a new identity that reflects OUM's continuing journey. So for me, this public lecture series is very pertinent because it helps us to sit together and share some of the best practices and share what will be some of the latest knowledge and also latest information that we need and we ought to know among us, especially among the academics, lecturers, and of course postgraduate students, and the many researchers, especially those who are in Malaysia and also in other parts of the countries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin again by congratulating OUM on organizing this public lecture series. Let's give a big hand to OUM. And I'm very happy to be here, and I see that OUM is working very, very positively in support higher education, especially higher education, Ministry of Higher Education, because we all see that higher education today is undergoing significant changes driven by technology, changing workforce needs, and evolving expectations from each and every learners. Now, universities must continue to reflect on how higher education is delivered and experienced. We must ensure that innovation does not only focus on new technologies, but also on how these technologies can improve learning and create greater opportunities for people, especially for the talents that we're going to produce, the learners or in other words, the students. So we are very happy to see that today from the brochures that I see, I'm sure we will be talking about technology enabled in teaching and learning, digital education and digital learning, AI. Those are some of the important elements that we need to take into account in order for us to be moving forward in providing the best curriculum and education, higher education in Malaysia and also in other countries as well. Now, digital technologies, including AI, are transforming the education landscape. They provide new possibilities for access, personalization, and also flexibility. However, as we embrace these developments, we must also continue to uphold the values that make education meaningful, whereby we need to focus on wisdoms, responsibility, integrity, and human connectivity. This is why platforms such as today's public lecture series are important. Universities are not only places where knowledge is shared, there are also places where ideas are discussed, perspectives are broadened, and new solutions are explored. So I must say that the role of OUM's Global Fellows reflect the importance of international collaboration and knowledge exchange in advancing higher education. Thank you to all the global fellows, yeah, and also the distinguished speakers coming from Hong Kong, UK, Japan, Germany, and the US, yeah. And I'm very pleased to be meeting all of you later on. And I must say that we are very honored to having you. And I do hope that whatever that you shared with us can be grasped by the many Malaysians over here in this room, yeah. And I must also congratulate OUM because recently in January 2026, 20th January 2026, the Ministry of Higher Education has just launched our National Higher Education Blueprint 2026 until 2035, which is a 10-year plan. But within that 10-year plan, we are focusing on 3 years first for the first phase. And I'm so happy to see that this public series lecture able to support the vision and mission, also the strategic focuses that we have tabled in that particular National Higher Education Blueprint. And whereby we have 10 shifts in order for us to move forward for Malaysia. And a part of it is on the talent development. So whatever that we are doing right now for this from this lecture, public lecture series, we know that we want to improve on how we can give the best and quality education to our talents, which is our learners. Yeah. And also in that particular 10 shifts, we are also focusing on flexible education. Yeah, so it is. We are very much emphasized on the unbundling of higher education. Yeah, we see that it's no longer a brick and mortar kind of education, but more so of lifelong learning, micro-credential, and also having a different modes and methods, yeah, in providing the best education to the many younger population out there. Yeah, so, and also we must say that lifelong learning is very important, and OUM, yeah, having that over 1,000 students that was highlighted by Dr. Professor Izani just now. So OUM holds that big number of talents that help us to nurture and to train so that we can produce better talents for the country. Congratulations to OUM. The future education will not only be shaped by one institution or one country alone. So it requires cooperation, coordination, dialogue, and sharing of experiences across borders. And I hope today's lecture series will contribute to this important conversation on the future of digital education. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also congratulate OUM on its new logo. Yeah, I do hope that the new logo will represent a new move, yeah, moving forward faster, more proactively, and also we will be able to see a brighter OUM in the near future. Now, a university's identity is not only defined on its logo alone, it is built through the trust of its learners, the quality of its academic programs, and the contribution it makes to society. So for us at the Ministry of Higher Education, we always focus on quality education, despite of whatever comments from the general public on the quality of we must control the quality of our higher education curriculum programs that is produced by the university. So we are quite strong because our Malaysian qualification agency is very strict, not to say strict, very stringent in terms of looking at the various programs, and it has to be audited, and of course it has to be re-evaluated, and it has to be reassessed so that it is in line with the industry needs. So these are the things that we want to make sure, to ensure that we have the more quality and the needed programs for the country's development. Now, today's OUM, for more than 2 decades, OUM has played an important role in expanding access to higher education. When open and distance learning was still unfamiliar to many, OUM is the one demonstrated that quality education could reach learners beyond traditional classrooms. Today, OUM continues to support learners through flexible learning opportunities, allowing many Malaysians from diverse backgrounds to pursue higher education and lifelong learning. Now, this new logo represents more than a change in design. It reflects OUM continued commitment to move forward while remaining true to the purpose that has guided the university since its establishment. Ladies and gentlemen, the journey of higher education will continue to evolve through initiatives such as the National Higher Education Blueprint. We remain committed to building a system that supports lifelong learning again, provides diverse learning pathways, and prepares Malaysians for the future. Initiatives such as micro-credential, as what I have highlighted just now, and accreditation of prior experiential learning, APL, are created and also have created more opportunities for Malaysians to continue learning, reskill and upskill throughout their life. Once again, institutions such as OUM plays an important role in supporting this vision by ensuring that education remains accessible, flexible, and responsive to the needs of the society. Ultimately, the success of higher education is not measured only by the technologies we adopt or changes that we introduced. It is basically measured by the lives we improve, the opportunities we create, and the contributions of our graduates make to the nation. This is very important, and this is what we want to impart. On behalf of higher education, we want that to be embraced by the many higher education providers in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I would want to once again congratulate OUM and the Secretariat for making this happen, and I would also want to congratulate the Meteor Group, for having this, for making this public lecture series a success. Let's give a very big hand to every one of them. And not forgetting, with the support from the distinguished speakers and of course from all the vice chancellors, deputy vice chancellors. And I do know that OUM is also working very closely with the many universities, being the 20 public universities, as well as around 372 private universities in Malaysia. So for the Ministry of Higher Education, both public and private universities plays a major role because they contribute to the whole ecosystem of higher education in Malaysia. So as the Ministry of Higher Education will always support and facilitate, because we do know that they are the ones who are running and making sure that our higher education ecosystem runs smoothly and also significantly able to bring changes not only for the Malaysians but also in other parts of the countries. Now, with that, I hereby officiate the second annual public lecture series entitled Beyond Standard Scripts, Imagining New Futures in Digital Education. And once again, I extend my congratulations and also wishing everyone a fruitful discourse, and of course, for the institution, for their growth and readiness to meet the evolving needs of learners in this digital age. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. We invite Yang Bahagia Datuk to remain on stage for a very special moment. I now invite our OUM President and Vice Chancellor, the Chairman of the OUM Board of Governors, and the Group Chief Executive Officer of Meteor to join Yang Bahagia Datuk on stage for the unveiling of the new OUM logo. Thank you. We now invite the President and Vice Chancellor to present the token of appreciation to our guest of honor.
Thank you. We kindly invite our guest of honor and the distinguished guests on stage to be seated as we continue.
Ladies and gentlemen, our new logo carries a story more than 2 decades in the making. Please turn your attention to the screen for the OUM logo evolution.
Since the year 2000, one university has been opening doors to possibilities once thought beyond reach. Our story began with a single symbol. Simple, bold, purposeful. Two letters came together as one. A circle that welcomed every learner. Blue earned trust. Silver inspired progress. Introducing the new face of OUM. The O and the U remain at its heart. Reimagined for a modern generation of learners. A deep navy circle. A symbol of limitless opportunity. From within it rises the U, built on 5 enduring promises: flexibility, expertise, progressive, personalized education, and lifelong learning. Together, they become something greater, the wings of possibility, empowering every learner to rise beyond possibilities, always moving forward, always reaching higher. 2 colors, 1 direction forward. Blue horizon represents the trust and credibility. Teal illuminate represents growth, adaptability, and the digital future we're building. The new way of learning that adapts to your life, anytime, anywhere, on every screen. A university without boundaries, a future without limits. This is OUM, reimagined, renewed, ready for what's next. Open University Malaysia. Own your future.
Thank you. Our program now continues with our third public lecture.
To introduce the session and our speaker, I call upon Dr. David Lim, Director of SENDEF.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. To continue, please allow me to recap the morning session that we've had so far. I began earlier by framing the session with the questions that this event will address. What are the standard scripts in digital education? And what lies beyond them? Are they all standard? Or standard to some and foreign to others? Exported from a few places to the rest of us? And also, I invited all of you to listen to the hidden scripts, the in-between scripts of the lecture that we'll be hearing today. We have heard from 2 speakers so far. The first speaker challenged the standard script of scaling. We always assume that if something works, we will just scale to the maximum, and that in itself will solve problems. But what Professor Lim shared with us was that it is not as simple as that. Scaling using technology does not by itself solve problems. That is just discontinuing a proper conversation. And what is important in scaling is to localize as we scale and to always involve communities to scale with us, to personalize, so that the local communities, the ones who are supposed to benefit, will indeed benefit and not be dispossessed as a result of the scaling. And from the second speaker, Professor Yamaguchi from the United Nations University, she challenged the script that AI is something that you can still have a question mark over your head about. She's advocating that we should embrace it, not blindly, but to be clear about what we need to do in terms of governance and not just chasing AI for the sake of AI, and that we ought to be aware of the cracks that are appearing where it comes to gender inequality, where indigenous groups and languages are slipping through the cracks, and also the disabled who need to be involved in any sort of policy governance where AI in education is concerned. And for the third speaker, we will take a philosophical turn. Instead of rushing quickly to grapple with these challenges, we will hear a different take, that perhaps what we should do is to pause for a second and consider if our rush is in fact serving us in what we need to achieve. And For that, I will introduce our third speaker, Professor George Veletsianos. He is Professor of Learning Technologies and the Bonnie Wesby Hubner Chair in Education and Technology at the University of Minnesota. His work examines how digital environments shape teaching, learning, and the future of higher education. Across 2 decades, he has written 6 books and more than 100 research papers and led projects funded by the National Science Foundation and others worth more than $5 million. He advises universities around the world on how they teach online, and he has been a Canada Research Chair, a Commonwealth of Learning Chair, and a Fulbright Scholar. His lecture today is titled, Siga Siga, Toward a Better Tempo for Digital Education. Siga Siga, as Professor Veletsianos will explain, is a Greek phrase. It means simply, slowly, slowly. His lecture questions our obsession with speed, with doing more, faster, and calling that progress. He asks what learning loses when everything is measured by the time it saves. And he offers us another way to keep time, a refusal to be rushed. Please join me in welcoming Professor George Veletsianos.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. It's great to be with you here today. Thanks for your generosity, your kindness, and for welcoming us. I want to talk about slowness today, and I will do so by sharing some stories with you. I grew up in Cyprus, a small island country in the Mediterranean Sea. And now, when I was preparing for this talk, I asked Greek and Cypriot friends to share stories of slowness, stories that captured slow life. A friend of mine grew up in sort of a similar environment as me. When I was growing up, my grandparents owned a restaurant. It's the restaurant that you see up there, the one that's kind of in the sea. And I spent many summers working at that restaurant. This friend of mine also grew up in a restaurant. His father owned a small restaurant. And he shared a story about growing up in his father's restaurant, a story that I want to share with you here today. It was a small restaurant. His father cooked, and my friend took orders and cleaned and served and so on. You know, what the youth do in restaurants. On busy nights when the restaurant was full and the orders were stacking up and the guests were becoming impatient, he would rush to the kitchen, impatient himself, and he would try to get his father to cook faster, to be faster, to get the food out faster. Right, to hurry up. And his father, standing at the grill, he would look at him and say, "Siga, siga," meaning slowly, slowly, right? Slow down. My friend told me at the time that he understood this literally, right? Calm down, be quiet, we'll get there. It took him years to understand what his father truly meant. And what his father truly meant was something else. It was something about quality. It was something about pressure. It was something about what's worth protecting. I'll come back to that kitchen in a little bit, but for now, let me tell you about the standard and fast ways that we think about digital education. And then I'll tell you about what slowly, slowly might mean for digital education. when we evaluate digital education, we often ask 3 questions. We ask, is it effective? Meaning, do the students meet established learning goals? Is it engaging? Meaning, do we draw the sustained and positive attention of students, right? And is it efficient? Do students, educators, and institutions meet those goals with minimal expenditure of resources, with money and above all time? And these are all reasonable questions, they're useful questions, but I want you to notice what kind of questions they are. They're optimization questions, right? And they ask how well, how reliably, how cheaply a system delivers. They don't ask about unintended consequences. They don't concern themselves with anything other than outcomes that they have already defined. That third question in particular is sharp. Efficiency treats time as a cost. It's something that should be minimized, right? Once time is a cost, though, compressing it feels like progress, right? If we do something faster, then that must mean that we're making progress. From there, we get things like instant grading, real-time analytics, algorithmic pacing, shorter courses, compressed degrees. All of it built on the same assumption that if we do things faster, they must be better. And that compressing time is a desirable thing. None of these questions ask, was there time to learn? Was there time to implement well? Now, here's the part that I really want to focus on. These questions don't just shape how we evaluate digital education, they also shape how we imagine it. They shape how we imagine the future of education. Once we create assumptions and absorb assumptions, they stop feeling like assumptions. They start to feel like common sense. They start to feel something that's settled, that's neutral. It's the obvious place to start. But common sense is rarely neutral. Common sense is something that somebody else created and the rest of us inherited. It's something that somebody else created. So our education systems, someone else imagined them. At some point, someone came up with the idea that we should have classrooms, that we should have universities, that we should have schools. The rest of us are just inheriting and perpetuating and building on these systems. When efficiency becomes an accepted value, an accepted norm, an accepted practice, an education that moves slower stops looking like an option at all. It just becomes hard to picture, it becomes hard to even recognize as a possibility to sort of be slower. Scholars who imagine societies or who study how societies imagine the future have a name for this pattern. They call it discursive closures. They point out that the futures that we're allowed to imagine are quietly written by those that benefit from them. The elite create futures for the rest of us, essentially. They keep repeating these visions until every other possibility does not become a reality. It feels unlikely, it feels impossible, it feels inevitable. When our universities buy onto these visions, they then create policies and practices that make those visions a reality. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The systems that we take for granted were once imagined. The lecture was imagined, the semester was imagined, the examination, the Zoom conference call, the degree, the certificate, every one of them was imagined. It was somebody's idea. None of them were inevitable. In a similar way, we can have different ideas about the future of education. The assumption that we must be efficient, that our students must be efficient, that digital education should prioritize efficiency is just an assumption. Once we start recognizing assumptions, we can start questioning assumptions. And that's what a standard script is. It's a standard script that powerful interests want you to believe, that efficiency should be a priority. Discussions around digital education are saturated with the grammar of speed and acceleration. And here's what I found really difficult. It's hard to find the language to push back against that idea. It's difficult to say that efficiency might be problematic, that perhaps we shouldn't prioritize efficiency, that digital education should slow down. That sounds like a dangerous thing to say these days, but perhaps it's something that we should say so we can have these conversations. You think about some of the English words for slowness, you'll see what I mean. Things like lagging behind or delayed. Nearly all of them carry a deficit, right? To be slow sounds like you're failing at speed. Who wants to be failing? I don't want to be failing, right? Therefore, I must be efficient. So I went looking for a better word, and I found the one in my mother tongue language, siga, which literally means slowly, slowly. But siga is more than a translation of slow. This is precisely why I'm using the Greek word for it instead of saying slowly, slowly, right? I'm borrowing the Greek word because some phrases carry meanings that are difficult to translate into other languages. Siga doesn't necessarily name a speed, it names a disposition, an orientation to life, a way of inhabiting time. An assurance that if you move deliberately without letting urgency dictate the way that you live, maybe things will come together as they should. It's not lazy, it's not behind, it's something like a counter value, a counter way of living, an alternative to the efficient scripts that are running digital education today. Which brings me back to that kitchen. Here's what my friend eventually understood his father to mean. A good steak needs time to rest. A sauce does not get done faster because the customers are waiting. The flavors that blend together the curry, they need time. The pressure to serve the food is real, but his father never allowed that noise to become pressure, right? He never let pressure get him to cut corners. He would rather make people wait than send food out faster, food that wasn't ready. So do not let noise around you become pressure that rushes you into something that ruins what matters. And now I have to confess that, the Greek language doesn't own this idea, right? Turkish speakers say yavaş yavaş. In Arabic, shway shway. In the Cypriot dialect, it's lao lao, right? You might have something similar in your own language and dialect. Yeah? I can hear some in the audience. Some things are best done and life is best lived, maybe at a slower pace. The point is that wisdom is not some Greek exotic thing, right? The point is that wisdom is everywhere and it's here as well. What's strange, though, is that we have built an entire digital education infrastructure that prioritizes efficiencies and erases slowness. So what does siga ask of us? Perhaps two things at two levels. At the level of teaching and learning, a recognition that efficiency might be detrimental to learning, to relationships, to judgment. At the level of institutions, and I say this with respect, knowing who's in the room, vice chancellors, board members, colleagues from ministries and international bodies, people who actually make decisions about adoption, SIGA offers us an orientation towards refusing ideas of induced urgency. I'm not saying never, I'm just saying not yet, and perhaps not so fast. The fear, I know that our institutions have a fear, the fear of being left behind. And that fear is manufactured by people who have something to sell you. And you're allowed, you're obligated even, perhaps to take the time to understand what a technology does to relationships, to judgment, and to the conditions of learning before you decide to adopt it, before you decide what role, if any, it should play in our educational systems. When technology companies give you their products and encourage you to use them and tell you that you have to use them to be future ready and AI ready and tech ready, whatever it is that they say, you have my permission to say, siga, right? Let's slow down a little. You have my permission to refuse induced and urgency. You're not refusing the future. What you're doing is you're insisting on choosing a future rather than adopting what other people think the future should be like. And I believe that we should all have a say in what our futures look like, rather than adopting what other people want our future to be like. All right, I'll leave you with two questions. Two questions to take forward. The first question is, I'm going backwards instead of forwards. So let me go find my questions. There it is. What becomes possible when we refuse to let optimization define the horizons of digital education? I don't know the full answer to that question, but that's the point. None of us can know, yet we need to give ourselves some time to imagine. Okay, there we go. The second question that perhaps you can carry forward to your next board meeting, your next procurement decision, your next curriculum review, before you ask whether a technology or an initiative makes us more efficient, you should ask, why are we in a hurry, and who decided that we were in a hurry? My friend's father, at his stove, was not refusing to cook. What he was doing was refusing to cook badly, right? This is all that SIGA asks of us. Not to stop, not to reject, but to refuse to be rushed into something that matters. So, as we leave here, I want you to remember the little Greek that you learned today. SIGA. Right. Thank you for your time. I look forward to any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think I speak for everyone here that from any other speaker, SIGA would not have been so convincing. And it is really to Prof. George's way of convincing us that I think it makes it worthwhile to slow down a little bit. And he's actually drawing also, apart from your Greek experience, from the slow pedagogy, which might not have seeped into the Malaysian system of thought yet, but there is that slow pedagogy where we take time to really learn properly, digest things properly so that we do not rush into things and fail as a result. So on that note, I would like to open to the floor to ask questions to Prof. George. And as usual, please introduce yourself, your name and your affiliation, please. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Ida. I am a DBA student of OUM. I have a question. Actually, in Malaysia, it's not new. We have a pepatah saying, biar lambat asal selamat, meaning that we prefer to be slow and safe. So my question is, how we identify that we are not left behind by being slow and safe? Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much for the question. That is a great question. There is always the fear of being left behind. And the colleague was sharing recently that fear extends to everyone. Someone somewhere is always feeling like they are being left behind. I think the balance is how to figure out how not to rush into something that is of lower quality than we want to be. We all want to do things faster, better, sooner. And the point is that we have leaned on sort of the other side of the spectrum, right? There's a spectrum of, say, efficiency to inefficiency or efficiency to slowness. Right now, we are towards the end of the spectrum, and what I'm saying, perhaps by slowing down a little bit, not necessarily all the way, we can gather the data, the information, the insights that we need to actually deliver what our aspiration is. Our aspiration is to do education better, to create better futures for our citizens, for our colleagues, for our friends, for our children. And if perhaps we slow down a little, we can achieve that rather than prioritize speed. Thanks for that question. I think it's really thoughtful. And I'm really happy that I got that question from a student especially.
Thank you. Yes, Professor Taj. I think we're going to get a mischievous question.
Okay.
Again, Professor George, I'm going to ask questions, siga, also very slowly and slowly, right? I think you pose a very interesting presentation because we are dealing with education, right? So looking from the perspective of education, because to me, education is a process. We do not want to lose the process because finally, you might produce graduates, but finally you might be producing graduates without soul. You know, there's a wonderful book by Harry Lewis, Harvard professor, right? So producing students, but at the same time they lose the soul of education. So for example, like you are driving a car very fast, you lose to appreciate the beauty of the scenery. So I think coming back to I think you put a very good point here that we do not want to be siga too much. We have to be balanced, right? We have to be balanced. You don't want to lose the race. But at the same time, looking back at your context, for example, in the Malaysian context, right? We do not want to be rushing, you know, whatever they are doing in the West, for example, we have to rush to follow suit, right? When we might be neglecting the whole ecosystem of, you know, I think earlier on in the morning, we talked about students with disability, right? When you travel too fast, there might be a segmentation of the community that might be left behind, right? So I think coming back here is to strike a balance. At the same time, we are dealing with a new generation of learners. You know, we have learners who come to the university, they want it quick, right? I want to spend at least the shortest time, then I'm out of the system because, again, you have other demands, you know, like, you know, have to put bread on the plate, on the table, you know, have to survive and so on. So how do you strike the balance between, you know, providing quality education, at the same time not to be too slow, right? But at the same time you meet the demand of different segmentation of learners. Because now the younger generations, digital nomads, they have a different perspective of life. But coming from our educators' perspective, we are talking about, hey, you want to make sure that education is a process that people go through because we are producing educated people, right? People who can think, because we do not want to lose the cognitive aspect of learning. So maybe your thoughts on that, how to balance up this thing. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Prof.
Again, a good question around balance. How do you make decisions, and around how can you make sure that you're not left behind when everyone else is rushing, when, again, others are perhaps innovating. And I think I would perhaps question a little bit the idea that others are innovating. And I want to use generative artificial intelligence as an example here, right? We are at a place where all of us, all of our institutions are adopting AI in our teaching and learning practices, right? Oftentimes very quickly, oftentimes because the technology has arrived, we see our students use it, we see its possibilities, right? I can put in my slideshow and say, what questions are people going to ask me so I can be prepared to answer them, right? And at the same time, we don't have data on the outcomes of using such technology, right? Some people might say, well, we have to adopt it and then figure out how it goes. But what if adoption leads to degrading outcomes, right? How do you decide when a technology company comes to you in a university and says, I will give you licenses to my platform for free so you can use it, or I will give it to you subsidized, or whatever it is that they do, right? The encouragement there is to adopt it, to not be left behind. And I can see the temptation, right? Every university will have that temptation. Every university is dealing with budgets, is dealing with lots of pressures. But what we also have to recognize is that when things are offered like that, something else happens, right? If you adopt the technology wholesale at your institution, that technology becomes infrastructure, right? It becomes something like plumbing. Once you create plumbing in your institution, it's hard to get out of it, right? You create training to support this system. You prepare faculty how to use it well. You prepare students how to use it. And now it's infrastructure, right? When that technology changes, when this organization decides that they now want to charge you for it, you cannot remove yourself out of it. It becomes costly. I think that's a cue to end. But what I will say is that perhaps one way to make more informed decisions is to prioritize research on these issues and learn from research on these issues instead of prioritizing what big tech companies are trying to sell us. I hope that's helpful.
Alrighty, so thank you very much for that. Let us give Professor George a round of applause. Thank you so much. And I just want to announce that the morning session is about to conclude. We've had 3 speakers. They have been, giving us ideas about what to think about, what to question, and there'll be more this afternoon. More slowness, perhaps not explicitly mentioned as slowness, but there will be ways and opportunities to consider whether we're doing the right thing with all the rushing. So on that note, I would like to pass you back to the MCs to announce a break.
Okay, thank you, Dr. David, and thank you, Professor Velicianos.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our lunch break. Lunch is served at Tun Dr. Ismail Hall 2, the same room as this morning's morning refreshments. For our Muslim guests, our facilities are available at Level 3 of World Trade Center and Level 2 of Sri Pacific Hotel. Our program resumes at 2 p.m. sharp for the 4th public lecture. We look forward to seeing you back in this hall at the time. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch.
Welcome back to OUM second annual public lecture series live from Tun Dr. Ismail Hall, WTC, Kuala Lumpur. You are now joining session 2, which opens with the official APLS ceremony and the launch of the new OUM logo, a significant moment in how the university expresses its identities and aspirations for the future. The session will then continue with public lecture 4 and 5. Thank you, Professor George. Stay tuned with us.